The Sega Genesis, the Sega Mega Drive if you live outside of North America. This console is 16-bit and it was released in 1988, well before Nintendo's first 16-bit console. And yet, it wasn't so successful until significantly after both companies had their 16-bit consoles. Sega needed a mascot to rival Nintendo's Mario, and they chose a hedgehog, a blue hedgehog, a really fast rolling blue hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog was by far the best-selling game on the Genesis, and was bundled with new consoles to improve the console sales. While the Genesis never overtook the Super Nintendo in sales, this launched a rivalry in the early 90s, not just between companies, but between children claiming they had the better console too. I mean, come on, a fast blue hedgehog sounds cooler than a, let's say, tubby Italian plumber. Sonic's world is bright and appealing, so you can see how he won people over. Now here's the thing. The first Sonic game may have been the bestseller, but its success led to the creation of Sonic 2 and 3, which both made the top 5 in best-selling Genesis games. These days, almost anyone will tell you that the sequels are better, and the first game wasn't quite as refined. Let's take a look at how Sonic the Hedgehog 1 plays today. Loading the game brings an iconic sound with a Sega logo and a title screen with Sonic waving his finger. He seems like a rather cheeky hedgehog, and I will say he's very expressive, especially with his wide eyes. Other than watching a few demos, there isn't much to do except start the game, beginning with Green Hill Zone. Yup, those hills are green, and that music makes me want to go fast. This console wasn't known for its music, especially with the odd, twangy synths available, but this game is very notable for cracking the music code. Sonic can run, jump, or roll. The main Genesis controller had the 3 buttons labeled A, B, and C, which are interestingly all assigned to jumping in this game. While they could have been used to give Sonic more moves, this means that players can adjust their grip to play in the most comfortable way for them. He most often starts rolling in the air, activating his spin attack, and landing on the robotic enemies in a roll will take most of them out. Of course, the main selling point is his speed, and it takes time to build it up. Once he's going fast, you're always hoping to maintain it, and it's fun to zoom through. There are a few times in Green Hill Zone where it feels as if the game is punishing you for going fast, which I didn't enjoy. Each zone Sonic visits has 3 acts, and the levels often have many layers to them. Sonic can collect rings similar to coins in Mario, but if he gets hurt, they will all scatter and quickly disappear. So, to stay alive, it's always important to hold on to those rings, because he can't handle taking damage without them. It's generally better to stay high up in the levels, and this can lead to finding item boxes for extra help. You can find 1-ups, 10 rings, a shield, power sneakers to go even faster temporarily, and even an invincibility item. The higher you are in levels, it's often safer from immediate danger, but easy to slip down to a lower layer. Sonic is chasing evil scientist Dr. Robotnik, also known as Dr. Eggman. He's in search of the Chaos Emeralds on this island, simply called South Island. As part of his evil scheme, his robotic enemy creations, Badniks, have invaded the island, and Sonic's animal friends have been captured. It's your goal as a player to find the Chaos Emeralds before Robotnik, and if you have 50 rings at the end of Green Hill Zone Act 1, you should see a giant ring behind the goal. Jump into that ring to find a special stage and a chance to get an emerald. Special stagers try their absolute hardest to make you not even want to get the emeralds. I don't say this lightly, I hate everything about them. This is not a reward. The whole stage is rotating and sparkling while the background of birds or fish constantly moves horizontally, regardless of your position. Messy doesn't even begin to describe how it looks. Don't be drawn to the orbs marked goal either. They're just traps that take you out of the stage without a prize. The emerald is encased in colored blocks which will disappear if Sonic hits them 4 times, and that's just about long enough for the stage to rotate them out of your reach. Most of the time it's already been a maze to reach the emerald, and these stages were excessive. At least there are no deaths in special stages, but I think it's hard enough to finish the main acts with 50 rings and reach them in the first place. You have 6 Chaos Emeralds to find before the end of the game, and after one special stage, I was already put off from finding more. Back in the main game, when you reach the end of Green Hill Zone Act 3, Dr. Robotnik shows up to spoil Sonic's fun. Every act ends with a unique Robotnik fight, and I appreciated how they were all different. In this case, he's flying in an egg-shaped machine with a wrecking ball constantly swinging from side to side underneath as an extra obstacle for the player. This is surprisingly complex for the first fight, but I was able to clear it on my first attempt and rescue a few of Sonic's animal friends that were trapped in a capsule. Next up is Marble Zone, a zone full of cool level design for someone other than Sonic. It's not suited for him. If Sonic's appeal is going fast, then this level is unappealing, although that's not to say it's bad design altogether. The issue I had with most of the game is that he was either going too slow or too fast, and the levels feel frustrating as a result. Marble Zone boldly uses lava in just the second area of the game, which is usually something associated with final areas. It has simple platforming above ground, but still not suited for going fast, and the main chunk of its levels are underground, where everything feels very slow. I liked the light puzzle elements of these underground sections, but the waiting is not fun, and Sonic's acceleration from a standstill is awful. There are some perilous sections of riding a platform over lava while other objects get in your way, and I thought it was creative when the lava geysers showed up in these sections. I'm undecided on whether the slippery controls are a problem here because it can be seen as an intended part of the challenge. It bothers me how slippery it is even at a low speed though. Spring Yard Zone is the zone I have the least to say about because I felt that it's already more of the same. Cool theme, cool design, bad for Sonic. Again, too slow or too fast, with the lower layers of the level being especially tedious to climb out of. The main gimmick is the bumpers, which cause Sonic to bounce like a pinball, and I wish there could have been more utilization of that pinball feeling here. The bumpers don't always feel consistent, and there were a few frustrating moments of trying to get them to cooperate, but I still feel that they had very good potential. Unfortunately, they haven't been my favorite thing in this game so far, since they also play a big role in the special stages. At this point, I hadn't even had the chance to play a special stage for a while, because the game is sneakily difficult from early on, making that 50 ring requirement a hassle. Without a doubt, the fourth zone is the most infamous from this game, Labyrinth Zone, and why not have that labyrinth mostly underwater? It's remembered for both getting lost and also the terrifying drowning music. Better stay close to those air bubbles. After experiencing it for myself, I think it's very hard to get lost in this place, but the difficulty comes from finding a way to make progress. Not all of the puzzles are intuitive, but to me the puzzle design was otherwise great because the game never forced you to drown if you couldn't figure something out. The hardest puzzles always allowed you to jump out of the water, and sometimes getting out of the water was the solution. The designs I didn't like were the multiple times I needed to dodge a spike moving up or down from a low ceiling, where the spike hurts from the side for no reason and Sonic's acceleration is a hindrance again. The Robotnik fight in this zone is also handled differently, featuring a high climb to chase him while escaping the rapidly rising water. If you get stuck in the water, there are no air pockets, so you'll have to reach the surface quickly. Thank goodness there's no requirement to damage Robotnik after all that. That escape was intense enough for me. If it weren't for Starlight Zone, I would have been very unhappy with this game overall. Finally, we have another zone that feels like it was actually made for going fast. You'll still need fast reactions at a high speed, but this zone was by far the best made zone for Sonic. That also means it's a little easier than a couple previous zones, and that's fine since it felt like a calm before the storm. It's a balanced design with fun on every layer. Even the slow parts felt good with those seesaw jumps higher into the levels, and it was good training for the Robotnik fight in Act 3. It's always a nice touch when bosses use a gimmick from the levels, although it was a slightly tedious boss in the end. Now it all comes down to Scrap Brain Zone, Robotnik's evil scientific experiment of all the worst obstacles you could imagine. Well, it's not that bad, but he would like it to be that way, and again, I kept thinking this is good design for someone other than Sonic. Teleportation tubes to different layers of the level, gates that only open from one side, slopes with the same enemy over and over, and, to the horror of many, an Act 3 calling back to Labyrinth Zone. Fortunately, Act 3 was a little breather from the other acts, and the color scheme made the Labyrinth Zone tiles seem dead. It's an eerie lead up to that final battle with Robotnik. I can give this credit for feeling like a final boss, but once you figure it out, it really isn't that difficult, and the moving parts of the level can block you from hitting Robotnik. This just takes too long, and I guess that's the main challenge, but I wasn't a fan of that. It could have been a better finale. However, seeing Sonic run fast celebrating with his animal friends was satisfying. Then I learned I got a bad ending. I didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds, so Robotnik sort of still won. I do like that the game gives motivation to go back and try to get all the emeralds, but I really wasn't interested for reasons explained before. Fortunately, there's no in-game reward for collecting all the emeralds, and the only thing that changes is the end sequence after Scrap Brain Zone. Hopefully Robotnik won't be laughing at me while juggling the emeralds next time. After all that, do I think Sonic and the Sega Genesis deserved their success? Yes. Do I think this game has aged well? No, that's the real problem here. It boils down to feeling too fast or too slow almost everywhere, and as much as I wanted to go fast, I felt that the game punished speed too often. The concept is all there, and the level designs are all engaging, but if you rolled this out as a new game now, it wouldn't be received well. Keeping retro context in mind, the Genesis didn't have any games that could match Sonic's charm. There's a reason this game sold better than any of their main rival consoles games, aside from Super Mario World. However, with game development a long way ahead of where it started, I'm choosing to be harsh to this one. There's little more disappointing in games than seeing good design go to waste, and evidently the mechanics needed more fine-tuning. Therefore, my final score for Sonic the Hedgehog will be 6.8 out of 10. Unfortunately, I can't see myself wanting to play this game again, and there's no doubt that there are simply better Sonic games to play if you want to experience the series for the first time. I'm glad that Sonic had his chance to improve, and I'm happy for Sega that they were able to boost their console with this creation. I'm looking forward to the next game when he's a more developed character, and hopefully the levels will be better suited for him. Nintendo have featured a selection of Genesis games on their Nintendo Switch Online service, but Sonic 1 has missed out so far, with Sonic 2 and Sonic Spinball making the cut. Sega made an enhanced version of Sonic 1 for mobile devices in 2013, which is faithful to the original version with certain bug fixes and modernized moves for Sonic. The most modern way to play the original version is probably with a Sega Genesis Mini, which is a 2019 console preloaded with a large selection of Genesis games. Sega really wanted Sonic to be their big break, and they advertised him that way. He made the front cover of Electronic Gaming Monthly in an issue which showcased all the zones, some with names that didn't stick. In a later issue, it was scored with 9s across the board, with most reviewers calling it the best Genesis game so far. Over in Japan, Sega-focused magazine Beep Mega Drive awarded it with an average score of 9.25 out of 10. I do feel bad that I wasn't nearly as nice with my score now, because clearly this was a big deal for Sega. Tell me, did you agree with the points I've made? What rating would you give Sonic the Hedgehog for the Genesis, initially released in 1991? Hit the like button faster than Sonic if you enjoyed, and remember to subscribe so that I don't have such a low percentage of subscribed viewers. As ever, thank you for watching, and please continue to be your own unique self.
Sonic got all the chaos they emeralds.